Hi, and welcome to Live Healthy Now. Today we have a great topic that we're going to dive into, talking all about love and relationships. And with me to talk about this, I have Riley Molinero, who is a love educator and relationship coach. And Riley is empowering individuals to create a better future by teaching them relationship intelligence. And she advocates that our future is dependent on us mastering our emotions and interactions with ourselves and others, because this has such a big role in our overall well-being and really does play a big part in moral and social well-being. So we're going to really dive into what all of this means so you can work out whether this is something that is impacting you and your well-being at the moment. And I really love Riley's mission because she's all about providing this education so that we can become more understanding, compassionate and connected. So welcome to the podcast and thanks for joining me, Riley.
Thank you so much for having me. I really love the work that you do. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. And I find what you do so fascinating. I know we've connected a few times before this recording, and it's something that I think people really miss from their well-being journey. You know, the role that not just romantic relationships, but any type of relationship has in impacting your emotional well-being, but also the other elements of well-being. So I'm really looking forward to finding out more about that. But just to get started, I wanted to ask you to tell us a little bit about what living healthy means to you and what your favourite and most impactful healthy habit is.
Yes. So I consider myself to be a very health conscious person because when I show up in the world, I need to feel good. Everything that I do, whether it's my work, my relationships, even enjoying going to the cinema, I have to feel good within my body, within my mind, in order to show up 100% myself. So a healthy lifestyle for me is everything from nutrition, meditation, taking care of myself, journaling, exercising. I really try to have a holistic approach when it comes to really being the best of myself and taking care and checking in and being able to really understand who I am and how I want to present myself in the world.
Yeah, oh, that's fantastic. And I can hear how empowering that is for you, you know, to feel that way. And do you find that because you have that respect for yourself and taking care of yourself, that it is empowering?
Absolutely. You know, my story begins quite tragically when I was abandoned by my father to sleep in the snow as an infant. And it was a very big struggle for me to really find that self-love and be able to understand that I was worthy of love and I was worthy of happiness. And so for me now to say that I do love myself, and not only do I love myself, but I teach other people how to do the same, it's such an empowering position to be in. Really understanding that the way that we look after ourselves is a form of self-care and self-love. And for me to be able to do it and teach it is such a blessing.
Yeah. And you touched on, you know, the importance there of taking care of yourself and what that does in building that feeling of self-worth and self-love. And I'm all about that because so many of us, women especially, do have this tendency to really pull ourselves down and to have very low self-worth and value. And for a lot of us, self-love is even kind of off the radar. It's something we feel very uncomfortable with. And so I love that you're really trying to help people build up their own self-love and to understand why that's so important in every aspect of your well-being. So I'm really intrigued to know a bit more about what you do. And I'd love to just start by asking you to share what it means when you say that you're a love educator.
Absolutely. So I'm a love educator and relationship coach. I teach couples how to create thriving relationships. I give them the scientific backed formula for success. So we tend to think that relationships are very complicated. there's a lot of drama in the movies and on TV and in the music, all these love songs about heartache and makeup and breakup. And so we've come to sort of think that relationships are so hard and so difficult. But in actuality, relationships are quite simple. It's really understanding what is that formula and then being able to put it into practice. I try to explain it like this. If I were to ask you to speak Chinese right now, you would look at me and say, it's too difficult. I can't do it. But if I were to give you a book and a tutor and to send you to China, you would be able to speak Chinese. And every Chinese person can speak Chinese. So it's not that relationships are complicated. We just don't have the tools and techniques that we need to thrive. And so that's where I step in. So I take couples that are in love, but they've sort of fallen off because they maybe have gotten into the roommate stage, or they are fighting in their relationship, or they're unhappy. They feel that the communication is gone or the intimacy is gone. And I say to them, if you are in love and you are willing to do the work, I can teach you everything else. So there is a basic formula when it comes to having a thriving relationship. There's 3 steps, really. The first one is to create a common vision. That is the vision that you have with your partner for what kind of life you want to live together. And what are your values and expectations for the relationship? Step 2 is to master relationship intelligence. It's being able to navigate the ups and downs that come your way. And the third step is to cultivate joy. It's the date nights and the sex and the intimacy and all the good things that you really got into the relationship for in the first place.
Yeah, that's really clear. And it's very common as well, isn't it, for people to have the love there and to have had those amazing moments and memories created at the beginning of a relationship, but to find that life gets in the way and you can very much lose sense of why you were together and how your relationship actually worked in the past. So do you feel that, if someone does have the love there, they are able to build a strong relationship back with the right understanding and awareness of how to manage their relationship?
Well, as the love educator, I will say this. Love is not enough glue to keep a relationship together. So a lot of times people are in love, but the relationship just simply doesn't work. And this is why we often get into multiple relationships in our lives, sometimes never creating that thriving relationship. So I say that love is sort of what will get your foot in the door, but relationship intelligence is what's going to keep the relationship for a long period of time. Love is a deep sense of affection for someone. It's a feeling, but it's not a practice. The relationship intelligence is really building that foundation on which your relationship can thrive.
Yeah, that's interesting, because so many people obviously focus on love done and they think love is the relationship. So tell me a little bit more then about relationship intelligence, because that is, I know, at the very center of the framework that you use.
Absolutely. So there are 4 pillars to relationship intelligence. There's self-awareness, which is the ability to understand your own emotions in any given moment. This is about yourself. Then there is self-management, which is taking it one step further. It's being able to manage your emotions in a healthy, productive way. When we're in a relationship, there are 3 entities. There's partner 1, partner 2, and the couple. So the first 2 pillars are about you. So when both partners are able to practice self-awareness and self-management, they've done half the work. The other 2 pillars are about the couple. It's relationship awareness and relationship management. So relationship awareness is being aware of the energy in your relationship. It's being aware of the other person. And relationship management is how you manage the relationship with the other person. Things like communication and building trust and being able to have a problem-solving technique and all of these things. So the relationship intelligence is full of all of these beautiful things that we have to first understand and then be able to put them into practice. Things like trust, compassion, empathy, communication. These are things that we really have to understand what they mean and understand how to put them in practice on a daily basis. For example, people say all the time, you don't understand me, or I don't understand what you're saying, right? We often say we don't understand, but what does it mean to understand? A lot of times we confuse understanding with agreement. So if I'm in a conversation with you, as a listener, my job is to listen to you. We call it active listening. Active listening is listening to someone with the intent to understand. That means that I'm absorbing the information that you're saying to sort of comprehend what it is that you're feeling and what it is that you're thinking. Now, I can completely disagree with everything that you're saying, and that's completely fine, but at least I understand you. And that understanding is what's going to give us the first step to being able to solve our problems and be a happy couple.
Yeah, that's really interesting as well, because you're right, that is something that a lot of people talk about. You hear them say, oh God, she or he just doesn't understand me. But is it a case of them just not having really taken the time to listen and show what you mentioned, empathy, and those kind of emotions like compassion? So what is it that you see as the biggest challenges people have in their relationships? And is that as a consequence of things in our upbringing, or is it due to what we've learned in society? Because I know that's something you really focus on trying to improve, is, that knowledge and awareness of our own emotional well-being and needs.
Absolutely. So I would say that most couples are not successful because of ignorance. It's not because they're bad people. It's not because they want to be in a dysfunctional relationship. So if so many people want to be happy, they want to be in love, and they want to cultivate joy, why is it not working? And it's simply the existence of ignorance. We're not taught how to love, and we're not taught how to have a successful relationship in the modern day world. We have to understand that relationships have changed more in the last 50 years than they have in the last 5,000. Relationships now are based on the self-actualization of both people. It means that I get into a relationship with you because it makes me happy, because I want to experience life with you, not because I'm a woman who can't get a job and can't have a bank account and can't vote, and my only role in life is to be a mother and a caretaker. So now in this modern day world, we have different expectations. We have higher expectations of our partnership, and we have the freedom to choose who we want to be and who we want to be in a relationship with. But with this freedom comes the responsibility to understand exactly what makes a successful relationship. And luckily, we've been able to study relationships on a scientific level. We understand that relationships, successful relationships have a certain formula, and unsuccessful relationships also have a formula. So we understand exactly what it takes to be successful and unsuccessful, but most people just don't have any clue. And so the ignorance is such a shame for me to see, because I see so many couples that they're fighting and they're trying and they're talking and they're doing all of these things, but it's simply not working because they're not using the right tools and techniques. So we can be in a relationship and we can be, talking every day and fighting all the time and sacrificing this and sacrificing that. But if we're doing it in the wrong way, we're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah, and you make such a good point about how relationships have changed through the years. If you think just in the last 30 years, how much has changed in our culture in the Western world, especially, with the role that women used to play in the family to the role that a lot of women now play. And yet we haven't had the network of support there to help us know how to navigate that in a better way, have we? And I think that's something you're really trying to be an ambassador of, to help build that awareness at a much younger age. And how do you think we do that? I've got a daughter who's 14. Obviously, this isn't on the curriculum at school. There's not very much on there about personal development and well-being, is there? But, how do we help to bring up that younger generation to not experience these issues and have that greater relationship intelligence?
Absolutely. So the first thing is education. It's really understanding, what is this formula? What do I need to know, and what do I need to do to be successful? And being a parent, it's really important to understand that yourself. If you're in a relationship, mirror that so that your children can see that, and then pass it down and explain to them and show them exactly what that is. So what is compassion? Why is it important? And how are you teaching that to your children? Do you yourself have effective communication with your children? Do you understand what that looks like? My mom, she used to always tell me things, you can't go here, you can't do this, or you have to do this, you have to do that. And I would always ask her why, and she would say, because I said so. That's a terrible communication tactic, So really instilling a value system in your children and allowing them to choose their own values. When we get into a relationship, the first thing that we have to do to be successful is to create a common vision. As you said, women now have so much freedom to choose what kind of relationship they want to be in, what kind of role they want to play. And whether you want to be a stay-at-home mom or a CEO or, have your own business and travel the world, that's the point. You get to choose. But you have to understand the value in what it is that you're choosing. Find someone with those same values and then create that common vision together. I was working with a woman who was married to her husband for 10 years, and she was a stay-at-home mom. And then she got a job, but she was working from home and taking care of one of her sons. And she said to me, my husband expects me to still cook and clean and take care of the kids, even though I'm also working. And so this is something that we have to discuss in the very early stages of our relationship. What are the expectations? Because in this situation, she has the right to want to have equality in the home, but he also has the right to not want to do any cooking, any cleaning, anything. He has the right, because we have the right to want whatever it is that we want. If I get into a relationship with a man who wants me to cook and clean and take care of the kids and make him, a cocktail when he comes home and rubs his feet and all this stuff, he has the right to want that. But then he has to find a partner who's also wanting to give him that. And so if I'm with him, I'm going to say to myself, hold on a second, we're not compatible. And so that compatibility, that common vision is really, really essential, because so many times in relationships, neither one of us is wrong. We have the right to want what we want, but we're with the wrong partner. And some of these things that we are not compatible about, it's not a necessarily make or break of the relationship, but then we have to add in compromise and negotiation and understand that if we do have differences, how are we going to brainstorm, compromise, negotiate, communicate, so that we can find solutions to our problems that satisfy both of us?
Yeah, you said so much there that I'll just try and unpack a little bit. What you said about like mirroring behaviour for kids as being the route to education, I wholeheartedly agree with. I talk about my purpose being to normalise healthy habits for families so that kids grow up respecting and valuing themselves and knowing what living healthy means and why you should live healthy. And relationships, and not just ones you have as a parent with someone else, but the relationship you have with your child, as you explained with the communication examples, is so important. And all of those things are contributing to a healthy way of living and feeling. And then just what you were saying there at the end about, the compromise and working together. I love actually how you explained that we're all really entitled, if you like, to what it is we believe in and we want for ourselves in our life. But it's about working with the person we want to be with to compromise on those things and to find what fits best for you together as a couple, if that can work. I think that's very empowering, because a lot of people I've come across who are in relationships that are struggling often feel that they're at fault, that there's something wrong with them for wanting their life to be a certain way. Do you know that they're failing because the way they are isn't a match with their partner? So I love how empowering that is. And then, I'm just wondering what you were saying about the working together to compromise, to find a solution. Do you feel that because of the way we live and how busy a lot of people's lives are, again, it maybe comes back to not having that education earlier, but, is that we don't put enough value on having to find how to do that together, to sit together as a couple and have those very open, honest and, productive style conversations.
Absolutely. So I'm all about efficiency. I'm a busy entrepreneur. So is my husband. We travel a lot. We like to be as efficient as possible. And I can say when it comes to problem solving in your relationship or problem solving in your life when you have a partnership, it's really about understanding a technique that is going to allow you to find solutions to your problems. So I've created something called the Power Couple Technique, which is a 7-step technique where couples can go from problem to solution without fighting, resentment, or negativity. So this means that when they have a problem in their relationship, they can sit down with each other and there's an effective method to go through to find a solution that works for both of them every single time. And that is a really efficient way to go through your problems, because what usually happens is someone will criticize, and then they will fight, and then they will struggle, and then they will, go through all of the crying and the frustration and the anger. And then either they will find a solution that only works for one of them, the idea of I won that argument, or it won't be resolved. It will get swept under the rug, and then it will come up again and again and again and again. And so when you understand how to utilize this technique, you become a super efficient couple. The problem comes into the relationship, you sit down, you go through the technique, and you find a solution that works for both of you. And once you understand how to do this, you save so much time, so much energy. You don't have that negative vibe in your relationship because you understand that you're going to find a solution. And I have to say, we've sort of gotten into this idea that fighting is normal in a relationship, that it's necessary, that, if you don't fight, it means you're not in love. Every couple fights, you have to fight. There's no way around it. And I'm here to say that fighting in a relationship is completely unproductive. It brings no value to the relationship. It actually starts to disintegrate the foundation that we are trying to create. So the only way that we can truly have a thriving relationship is to learn how to have a relationship without fighting. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not going to have problems. It's not going to mean that we're not going to have disagreements or differences of opinion. This is called life. But when we have a technique that allows us to communicate effectively, brainstorm, compromise, negotiate, and find a solution, we can skip all of the drama.
Yeah, and I've definitely experienced it. I'm recently divorced, and, in my marriage and just experience of seeing others, it's very easy to get into this pattern of fighting, of arguing, but not getting into the root cause, like what is it that's underneath, so you can fix that problem and not have those arguments and disagreements continuing. And you're very right in how you explained it, that many people have this belief system as well that fighting has to be about a winner, that there's only one person that comes out a champion at the end of any fight or argument. And to hear that doesn't have to be the case and actually shouldn't be part of a functional, thriving relationship is very reassuring. So tell me then, with your framework that you use for relationship intelligence, why is it such a great form of self-care? How is it that relationships are impacting our well-being?
Absolutely. The quality of our life is based on our relationships. We're not machines. We need to connect with ourselves and with other people. And so the first and most important relationship that we'll ever have is our relationship with ourselves. All of those elements that I was talking about in the formula, they also apply to ourselves. How do we show ourselves compassion? How do we actively listen to our own thoughts? How do we compromise and negotiate on the things that are important to us? How do we create our own vision that we want to focus on in order to live the life that we want to live? So when it comes to relationship intelligence, it's really about understanding first I need to nurture this relationship with self. That is the biggest, most important form of self-care. Knowing who you are, taking care of yourself, living within your truth. And then all of those relationships around me, the relationship with my children, the relationship with my partner, the relationship with the woman at the coffee shop, those connections that we have really make or break our happiness at the end of the day. And our happiness and our satisfaction, our true satisfaction, not from the car we buy or the house that we live in, but the true value that we get from having these connections. This is really, for me, the most important form of self-care.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Relationships and just community as well is such a big part of our well-being and health that is often missed. Loneliness is something that's on the rise and can have a very detrimental effect on people, especially as they age, if they are living alone. And so to form the right relationships and ones that are thriving, as you help people to do, is so important, isn't it? So I know you've got a story. You mentioned how your life started as a baby and being abandoned by your father. How has this relationship intelligence allowed you to create the happy life that you live right now?
Absolutely. Well, there's many different ways. I'll stick to one. When my father abandoned me as an infant, obviously I didn't understand what that was. But as I grew up without him, I was always curious why he wasn't there and why he wasn't in my life. And I saw all these other children with their fathers around, and I wondered, what's wrong with me? And then I started, as I became a teenager, I started to hate him and resent him and was so angry towards him. And it wasn't until I really understood what compassion was and empathy was that I really started to understand how powerful these concepts are. So compassion is really understanding the other person's position, their mindset, their behaviors, their experiences. Someone who's not able to show compassion to other people, someone who's not able to connect with people on an empathetic level. This is the default that they have. This is a fault that they have. And this is something that I do have. That's why I would never be able to do what he did, because I do have compassion. I do understand empathy. So really being able to look at him and say, if he had compassion and empathy, of course he wouldn't have done what he did, but he doesn't have those things. So it's really detaching yourself from the resentment and the anger, and it gives you peace of mind. I truly believe that everyone does what they can. Some people don't have compassion. Some people don't have understanding. Some people don't have, these different things. And I'm blessed to say that I do have them. And so it allows me to understand myself better, and it allows me to understand other people better. And so you get to live in this space of joy and connectiveness rather than resentment and hate and anger. And that translated to my relationship where I am now. I'm a very happily married to an Italian man, and this compassion shows in our relationship. Obviously he hasn't done anything so dramatic, but even if he's had a long day at work, or if he is in a bit of a bad mood, instead of saying why are you always in a bad mood or something like that, I show him compassion. Is everything okay? Is there any way that I can support you? Is there anything that you need? Really understanding and connecting rather than resisting and getting angry and frustrated about it.
Yeah. Was there a time, when you became aware of how you were feeling in those emotions of resentment and anger because of what happened to you as a child, that you thought, this is just how I am, that I won't be able to change and be any different to this?
Oh, 100%. I suffered from anxiety and depression for over 20 years. I got to the point where I wanted to take my life, and I had planned and decided that that's what I was going to do. I got to a space where I felt that my life wouldn't get any better. It was my father abandoning me, and then my mother abusing and neglecting me. And then I got into a relationship with a man who was living a double life. He had a girlfriend and got her pregnant. And at that point I said, I'm cursed. My life is just never going to get any better. And so all of the resentment, the frustration, the anger, the sadness, the disappointment, the depression, all of that consumed me. And I thought to myself that that's just the way my life is. But when I decided that I was going to take my life, I asked myself, but what if? But what if I could choose a different path? What if I could create something different than what I already have? I didn't ask for the life that was given to me, but I had the power to change it into something that I did want to experience. And so that day I decided not to end my life, but end the suffering. And so that's when I transformed my life and I started to take the steps. And I can tell you at that point, I had no idea what I was going to do or how I was going to do it, but I knew that I had nothing to lose, that I was already at the bottom. There's nowhere down from here. So if I could just try and see what happened, I would be open to that. So that day I decided I'm not going to end my life, but I'm going to end the suffering.
Yeah, wow. That's so powerful, because the reason I asked that question is that you do hear from a lot of women who I work with or in my community and network that they believe they're stuck as they are. We all have these limiting beliefs. That's just how our brains work. And, we've established a lot of them in very early childhood. And so we're convinced that we are what we are and that we can't change that. And, this holds people back from living the life they would really like to live in so many ways, whether that's in a relationship or it's in their health with things, like losing weight or getting fitter or just having more respect and taking better care of themselves. And so, that's a message I would like you to take if you're listening, is that whatever your circumstances, you do have the power within you to change. It's not necessarily going to be easy, but as Riley said, you really can make that conscious choice. And I think from my experience, I've had several moments in my life, I call them like these penny drop moments, where I've hit, a bit of a rock bottom for different reasons. And then you have that moment that makes you realise, this can be different and I can do something different to feel and live better, because I can't continue like this. So that's really good. I'm pleased you shared that, and thanks for opening up, because I know that's obviously a really emotional topic for you to revisit. So just with regard to the relationships we've centred on, of being romantic relationships, we did mention briefly that all relationships do have a part to play. Is that something that you think people should be consciously managing in their life as well, to make sure that they've got the right relationships, if they have a partner or not, whatever it is in their extended friends or family or social network? Does that play a big part in our well-being as well?
Absolutely. And, I think especially now post-COVID, we've realized how important relationships are and how important it is to have healthy relationships, not just any relationship, but healthy ones. And whether it's with your children or with your friends or with your coworkers, these are the people who you're exchanging energy with every day. These are the people that you are bouncing that energy off of. So you want to make sure that you're investing in your relationships the same way you invest in your health and fitness and, your education and your career, because this is truly what's going to make you happy. So it is really, really, really important to ask yourself, is this a healthy relationship? How can I improve this relationship? Or is this a relationship that I should leave behind? This is a big question we should be asking ourselves, because some relationships, it's better not to have it than to have a dysfunctional one. So we should definitely check in with every relationship we have and ask ourselves these really important questions.
Yeah, that's a really important message for people as well, isn't it? Because sometimes we just continue with relationships because they're in our life, whether that's a partner or a friendship or even family ones, and that relationship isn't functioning and it isn't helping you to feel good and to thrive. So, that can be something which someone hasn't had to do and experience before, but I agree with Riley that there are occasions when actually not having that relationship is something that would be more beneficial for you than staying in it for the wrong reasons. So for anyone who might be hearing this and thinking, yeah, there's definitely some challenges there, whether it's in a relationship with a partner or elsewhere, what one thing could you suggest that they do in the next day or two? I like to give actionable tips that people could start as the foundation, like the first stepping stone to changing this part of their life to improve their health and well-being.
Absolutely. So I would say that when you are thinking about your relationship, let's say with your child or with your partner, you want to ask yourself, do me and this person have the same common vision? Because that is where you start to create a thriving relationship. So when I have a relationship with my child, what is my vision? What is my goal? What are my values and expectations when it comes to the relationship with my child? And when it comes to the relationship with my husband, for example, what is the goal? What is the vision? Because a lot of times, if we are in a relationship where we are unhappy, we're frustrated, we're overwhelmed, this is not what we've chosen. This is not the vision. But if we don't create the vision, we'll get all the negative stuff by default. And so we have to be proactive and say, this is the relationship that I want to have with my child. These are our values. These are our expectations. These are our goals as a family. This is the relationship that I want to have with my husband. We have the same vision. We're working towards creating something beautiful. So if you don't have that very clear right now, I would go ahead and start to work on that process. In every area of your life, you should have a vision. What is my goal? And be able to take steps day by day to start to create that vision and stay in alignment with those values.
Yeah, and that's something which, when you put it like that, makes a lot of sense, because if you're listening and you're a business owner like Riley and I, we have a strategy, we have goals, we've got our mission, vision, purpose. You know, if you're employed, you probably have those at the company you work for, and you, as part of the team, you're brought in to be part of that. Yeah, it's something that we rarely apply to our personal lives. And it's definitely something that I have very much made a part of my life over the past few years. It was something that was helping me to try to fix the problems that I had in my marriage. And then, having separated and divorced, I've now met a new partner. And prior to meeting him, I was very intentional about values that I wanted to have if I was to go into a new relationship. And I can honestly say it does really help you to stay more true to yourself and to know that you're doing the right thing, whether that's in fixing a relationship that isn't functioning very well at the moment, or it's when you're approaching a new relationship. And yeah, applying that to the same way that you would strategy or business goals or something else you want to achieve is a great way to try to picture it and apply it in your life.
Absolutely. I will just say this. When you want to create the life of your dreams, you have to ask yourself, who do I have to become to live that lifestyle? Is it the person that I am today, or do I have to make some changes? So if your vision includes having a respectful relationship and an exciting relationship, are you becoming this person who's respectful and exciting? So it's really about understanding that the vision is important, and then becoming that vision so that you can take those steps.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something, again, that you can apply in lots of different parts of your life. And I certainly use that right at the start of my coaching programs, with getting really clear on who you want to be and why that matters to you to be that way, what value it's going to add. And so definitely taking that approach in all of the areas of your life, including relationships, is a really key thing to do and implement. So I've really enjoyed talking about this. It's definitely taught me a few things today, and I love just the clarity that you give to it with your formula and what relationship intelligence is. So if anyone would like to find out more or connect with you, can you just let them know where they can find you and how they can get started as well with the free guide you have? Absolutely.
So you can always find me on Instagram. It's at Riley Molinario. And then if you want to go to RileyMolinario.com, you can choose to participate in my Relationships Without Fighting masterclass. It's free and you will get a workbook, and I will teach you the proven formula of how to go from problem to solution in your relationship without that fighting, resentment, or negativity.
Amazing. And all of the links to that will be in the show notes, so you can easily connect with Riley and get started there with that masterclass and workshop. So thanks again. I've really enjoyed it. I appreciate your time.